people that go to the pro day will actually go to the combine and vice versa.
Okay.
So they'll get 2 times to kind of expose themselves and put off their talents. I jumped, I ran, did the bench press. That was about it. And knew that when ball ended, because it always does, right?
Yeah.
What was plan B? Athletes don't ever want to focus on plan B, but you kind of have to in this day and age. So graduated with my degree. I immediately started getting certifications to kind of get myself back into the rhythm of working. Shortly after there, got into real estate.
Hey, welcome to the podcast, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I mean, you're a unique situation because usually I bring on people that I've known for a long time, and you reached out to us on Instagram and you told me your story, and we met, and I thought it was an awesome story, and I'm excited to have you on the show.
I'm glad to be here. Being able to just talk to you with your professional experience and then just talk to the entire audience that you have about just obviously my story, but what it takes to get involved in the real estate and work part 9 to 5 and part in real estate. I think it's a vast majority of people in the world that want to get involved. So hopefully I can add some value. So
yeah, well, I mean, look, you're a little younger than me, a lot younger than me. I realize how old I am now. But I think your story is really interesting for those that don't know Darnell Leslie's story. So you went to college, went to a smaller college. Eventually made it to NFL. What was the smaller college?
I went to Monmouth University up in West Long Branch.
Yep. And was that Division 2, 3? What was that?
1 AA.
1 AA? Okay, cool.
FCS ball.
I went to JMU. So
we
were 1 AA. Or I guess we are 1 AA. I don't know. In college,
you guys might have gone up to 1A.
We're now gone up to 1A, yeah. So, and I did a little research on you. I always joke around with my friends that I have a 40-inch vertical. It's a complete lie because mine's like 4 inches. But yours was actually over 40 inches, right?
Yeah, I jumped to 41 and a half at my pro day.
Yeah.
It's decent. It's okay.
One thing I think that's cool about the NFL is they always seem to find great athletes and great players, right? And what is that process to go to the combine? Can anyone go to it? What does that look like?
No, so it's a selection. You have to get invited to go to the combine. I wasn't fortunate enough to go, but every school and every region in the country usually have what's called a pro day. So I think that was just past maybe the last month or so for a lot of these collegiate players coming out. But you'll have a pro day at your school or at a neighboring school, and you guys will combine players, and scouts will come to your school to see you perform. Okay. And a lot of times, people that go to the pro day will actually go to the combine and vice versa. Okay. So they'll get 2 times to kind of expose themselves and put off their talents. But we had just a pro day. I jumped, I ran, did the bench press, and that was about it.
So that, based off of that only is where you got drafted? Based on the 1 pro day and then film footage, obviously, they're all taking a look at.
Right, so I was an undrafted free agent. So I didn't have the opportunity to get drafted.
Okay.
Coming from a smaller school, didn't have the best film, playing against higher competition and things like that. But Miles Austin from the Cowboys was an assistant coach for the Cowboys my rookie year. Okay. So he had extended his hand and said, look, come out, try out for the team as a rookie. And flew out there for rookie minicamp and OTAs, made the team. They signed me that next day, and then that's how I got on the Cowboys.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Very cool story. So you did, I think it was the NFL and CFL for a couple of years, right? Yeah. And then did you come to the DMV area after that?
Yeah, so I've always lived in the DMV area. I was born and raised in Gaithersburg, a little north of here. But after Dallas got cut, went up to Canada, came back home, got cut again. From playing with the Steelers, went back up to Canada. During my last year playing in Canada, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then after that, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start investing in real estate when I get back home. So after that season ended in Canada, came back home, played for the USFL and the XFL. And once that season folded, I was like, yeah, it's go time. So about 2 years after reading that book, that's how I came back home and started, just trying to focus on real estate and moving on from there.
How long ago was that? What
COVID.
Was that?
It was COVID. COVID caused that league to fold.
Okay. Yep. And you didn't just get into real estate. I believe you got a full-time job initially. Is that right, in the IT industry?
Yeah, so I had graduated college with my major in software engineering with a minor in computer science. So I always liked IT and technology and knew that when ball ended, because it always does, right? What was plan B? Athletes don't ever want to focus on plan B, but you kind of have to in this day and age. So graduated with my degree, and when COVID hit, I immediately started getting certifications to kind of get myself back into the rhythm of working, because I'd been 4 or 5 years removed from any formal experience. So I got a few certifications, got my job in October of 2020, and then shortly after there, got into real estate.
Gotcha. And one of the things I think your story is unique and different than people we've had in the podcast before is, we work with some of the top producing agents and teams in the country. You're on the developer side of things, but what you have done, which I think is a smart move, is you actually still kept your full-time IT job, and you're moonlighting a bit. You're feeling it out, seeing if it works, do the numbers work, all that kind of stuff. Tell us about your mindset. Where did you ever think about going all in? Do you like that you went this route? What do you think?
Yeah, long term, I definitely want to focus only on real estate. It's one of my passions, and it's what I want to kind of run the engine of my large scheme business. But for me, COVID had taught all of us one income is way too close to none, right? So a lot of people lost their jobs, were unemployed, and got laid off, whatever the case was. And after COVID, I knew immediately I was never going to just work behind a desk my entire life. Yeah. I was always going to have my hand in something else to help me make money, provide for my family. So once COVID hit, again, I knew working 9 to 5 was going to be that stable income. My best business partner is going to be my company paying me. But I'm going to funnel that money into real estate to fund my lifestyle long term to get me out of that rat race.
Right.
So I was always trying to use one to funnel the other, and then use this one, real estate, to get me out of the 9 to 5.
Gotcha. And so how will you make that decision one day when you're like, hey, I'm ready to go full-fledged? Have you thought about it, or, do you not know yet?
I've thought about it, but for me it's like I got a degree in what I do. I don't hate it, and I'm not bad at it.
Yeah.
So if it takes me 10, 15 years working 9 to 5 and still building my portfolio on the backside, I'll do that, because again, your job, your 9 to 5 is your best business partner. It pays you on time. Your concrete roles and responsibilities. You got insurance thrown. Why cut that off just to be an entrepreneur?
I like it. I also like that you said 10, 15 years, because you don't meet many young people who think of that type of horizon. Like I remember myself. I'm 45 years old now, but I remember I was 23 when I started my first company, and this shows you the impatience of young people. I was like, if I don't sell by 26 my first business, I'm a failure. And looking back, it was the dumbest thing ever. I had it till I was 37. Yep. But there's nothing wrong with a paycheck and health insurance and that kind of thing, especially if you're good at it, it's creating some enjoyment, some benefits for you. One thing I realized, I was flipping houses when I started this title company. I actually stopped doing it after a few years, purely from time perspective. I felt like, it take me away from creating a great company, because it's hard. It's hard. Yep. With that said, if the title company was a smaller local title company, it's something I could have done. But our goal was to expand nationwide and create the best title company. But on top of that, we're in 11 states. It was too much for me to handle. So I like your approach, though, of kind of dabbling into it. One thing is, if you do it on the side, you actually can bring out some cash. If you are paying yourself a salary, a lot of times with those development projects, that sucks up all the money.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people starting off think, one, the profit that I'm making off this flip, if it's $40,000, I can live off that forever. You can't. You got to pay taxes, right? You got to hold money aside to build the business. Then you also have to pay your bills, right? But also from the long-term buy and hold side, if you have 5 properties cash flowing you $200 each, that cash flow's not yours, right? So I don't touch any of my cash flow. I strictly live off of my 9 to 5 income. Real estate is just the nest egg. That's what's going to keep the engine going. Yeah. But you're newer investors I hear all the time, well, that property's not cash flowing enough. Dude, if it doesn't cash flow anything today, who cares? You should be in the game for 30 years plus.
Yeah, I like that. I like that approach. That's a really good point. For your job, what type of stuff in the IT world are you doing?
So I work for the government, and I do project management, I'll say. So we build applications for the government, release them out to the government and the different users, and pretty much do maintenance on them and do any enhancements that they may need throughout the time. But I'm in project management.
Cool. Well, can you say what company?
Khaki.
Okay.
Khaki.
Well, so I watched some of your Instagram videos, and I liked some of your messages. You actually were talking about creating quality products, not just cheap products. And I was just talking with a group of guys. I told them we were coming to this podcast, and they brought up it's hard when you're I gotta make as much money as I possibly can on this thing. Which a lot of times, to make as much as you possibly can, you gotta maybe cut some corners or decrease in quality. And tell me your thoughts on how you deal with that situation.
Yeah, initially starting out, that was me, right? So I get that mentality and that mindset, but becoming an agent and understanding that I have clients that I have to represent myself as well, and just understanding as a person, would I want to move into a house that was flipped with half-done materials and the cheapest LVP I can find and the worst cabinets possible that aren't really up to date. Like, no, I wouldn't. I want to put product out there that I would be happy moving my mom, my sisters, and myself, my wife, and kids in.
Yep.
Right? So for me, if it means taking another month and a half on a project to get the material that I need and to get the finishes that I need, I'll do it. If it takes me spending another $10,000-$15,000 over budget or putting that into my estimates initially, I'm going to do so, right? I'm always going to estimate on the lower side because I want to be leveraged that way instead of saying, oh, I'm going to flip this house with a 80% margin and end up screwing myself in the end because I didn't do my numbers right and was conservative enough.
Yep, makes sense.
I want to know, like, why did you get out of the flipping game? What was that reason for you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the reason I got out of flipping was it really came down to, I don't believe you should create different businesses in different industries. Now, that's why I went ahead and flipped, because I was in the real estate industry. It really came down to a time factor and a stress factor. So, for me, I saw we were creating something great here at Allied Title, and, I was like, I don't need it. And it just takes me away from like the end goal, which is creating a great business. So not to say that it wasn't profitable. I was fortunate that, there were good flips that I did. But they were very stressful. There's like issues with zoning at times. There was issues, where I had to get a variance, and, we just wasted 8 months. All those things, like it creates a lot of stress, which is fine if that's what you're looking for and it makes sense financially. But for me, it was just one of those things. And I think it's like, I don't think there's a right answer, right? It was just, for me, the right answer was, hey, we have a great business at Allied. Just continue to focus on that and build it.
I just listened to a podcast on the way over here, Daily Stoic, and the dude was talking about, it's Ryan Holiday, but he had on Matthew McConaughey. And Matthew McConaughey was talking about majoring in your majors.
Okay.
Right? Matthew McConaughey told a story of how he had like 4 or 5 different projects going on at a time with his business, and none of them were ever scaling. None were ever hitting the peak that he wanted to hit.
Sure.
So he told his representatives and his staff, look, let's cut off 3 of these things so I can focus on the 2 that are actually going to run my business and help me succeed.
Yep.
And he talked about how those bonfires that he had, the 5 bonfires or campfires, turned into bonfires because he now was adding gas to the things that really mattered. So to your point, building Allied Title is a huge feat, but also flipping real estate could take away from that because of the time, the stress, the headache.
Yep.
And you're not really focused in on what you need to help build your passions.
No, it's true. On a more extreme version, when I lived in California, I had a sport and social club business. Randomly, we created this Saturday Night Live costume one year, and it was a big hit. So then we licensed a Halloween costume for Saturday Night Live. No correlation at all. Right? So owning a sport and social club to owning a Halloween business, like it made no sense at all looking back. And eventually we just kind of got rid of the Halloween business and focused on it. But that's a good example of, that was my learning from the past. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. And I've had lots of opportunities that have come up since I moved back here. But I go back to, it's like, the one thing that's amazing to me is like how Elon Musk runs 5 different public companies, 6 different public companies. It absolutely doesn't make any sense. Now, I don't think he's an actual human being, so like it kind of makes sense. But like that definitely defies all odds. For me, I have no interest in that kind of stress, that kind of whatever. Like he's. I listened to him on a couple podcasts. He's unhappy, and he's fine with that because I guess in his mind he's changing the world, which he is. And that's what he believes he's there to do.
Right.
For me, I actually want to enjoy my life a little bit. I want to see my kids. It's not about changing the world. Hey, I'm entitled. Entitled's boring. We're just here to make it fun. So,
I agree.
So that it all kind of comes down to what you're trying to do. I think, and I definitely believe in just diving deep into that. And look, the thing is, over my career, what I've learned is, I grew up playing sports. I love sports. I went and created a sport and social.
I was going to ask you, like, what, 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5", yeah. So, and I got into it, and I was like, oh, do what you love.
Yeah.
And someone said, don't get into sports if you want to make money, and it's true. Like, even though we had the fastest growing obstacle race in the world, we had the fastest growing 5K race, fastest growing sport and social club, there wasn't really money in that industry. Now, if you own an NFL team, it's different. But if you don't, do you want to do something that you're enjoying? Now, I enjoyed it when I was younger, but at a certain point, you want to be able to, give your kids some nice things and all that kind of stuff. So
I agree, man. I think I was telling somebody earlier, like this week, like boring is good.
Yeah.
Boring is good. Like when you really can hone down and focus on what's really gonna drive your passions and allow you to be the entrepreneur and CEO of your company, and be the visionary, and you can really be focused on just growing the brand, growing the business, growing your name, growing your likeness, growing your passion and your purpose. That's fun, and that should be boring. Like you shouldn't have to be so stressed out worrying about 5 and 6 different things that don't really align to your point. But when you can sit back and figure out the 2 things that are really that you're passionate about, and you can help people add value to their lives from and make money off of, which is great, double down on that.
Yeah.
That's the recipe.
Absolutely. You said real estate agent also. So like, give me like on your side business, let's call it real estate. How much is it of being an agent versus doing flipping? What does that look like?
To me, they're really one and the same. I'm my own agent.
Okay.
Really, I got my license so I can keep all my commissions when I buy and when I sell, essentially. Because I knew that I was giving away 6% if I was selling flips, or giving away a certain percentage if I was buying rentals. So being strategic with it, but also loving the benefits of being an agent, from having access to MLS, from going to networking events, to just meeting people in the industry, right? Like there's so many benefits to being an agent as well that I decided to get my license. So for me, it just made the most sense.
Yep. Nice. I've seen on your videos, it seems like you're out on projects, you're interviewing people.
Yeah.
Are these people that are your subs that you're interviewing? Are they, who are they random projects you're going to? Or are they all your projects, or what is that?
Yeah, so they're all based around my projects that I have. And the whole reason why I started content was to give people an inside look and understanding as to what it takes to be a real estate investor, right? A lot of times people are so afraid of getting started into something because they don't know what to ask.
Yeah.
They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what to be aware of. So if I can give them some sort of 30-second interview as to what you should be asking your contractor, great. Hopefully that helped you. If I can walk you through floor and decor and have you talk to one of the specialists at that store so they can tell you what you should be looking for, what you shouldn't be looking for, because that's not my expertise, hopefully that works, right? So for me, it's just giving everybody that's involved in my projects an opportunity to speak to the audience and tell them, like, look, these are the questions you should be asking. Don't be afraid, because honestly, I don't know half the answers to what they're gonna say anyways, right? Like I'm just going off the top of my head, but that's how you learn, and I'm still learning to this day, asking these questions to these people.
I watched one of your videos the other day, and I know nothing about developing, even though I was doing some flips. I hired some good people, but I still remember this. So you said, when you're building a house, you start off with the bigger components and it gets smaller. So mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. Yeah. Right? Because you just think about the smallers. You put in the big stuff first. Yep. Then you got to put in the plumbing pipes. Then electrical, you can wrap it around everything to get it through. Like the fact that I remember, I have a horrible memory. But I mean, I think you explained it well. And I think those are good tips. For someone, like, if you're educating an audience, like there's analogies that can be used to kind of get people to learn. I thought that was good. Yeah, man. And that was something that I learned on the fly again. Yeah. I learned that from an error that I made on my project, right? This is flip 6 for me in the last 2 years. So I'm very new in the game. And I take pride in being able to go to my projects and ask my contractor dumb questions. I take pride in that. Yeah. Like, educate me. Let me know what I'm missing. And so one thing we realized on that project was, when you're doing any sort of structural component on a house, or you're tearing down a wall, putting in ductwork, plumbing, electrical, all new stuff, all new components, you start with the mechanical, because usually the ductwork is the biggest components behind the wall. So you can build a chassis or a wall around the ductwork that you're running. So now in that same wall, you can maybe run 1 or 2 waste lines, or 1 or 2 supply lines for your plumbing. And around that, why can't I just also tie in all my electrical throughout the same studs? Yeah. So it just made the most sense. And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, well, damn, where was that the last 5 projects? I didn't even think of that, but like, there's a process to everything, a method to the madness. Are you have you used the same GC each time? Are you mixing it up, or how do you look at this so far? Really depends on where I'm at. So I've done 3 flips in Frederick, and 2 in Maryland. So Frederick crew is the Frederick crew. They're all downtown, and the guy I hired, he's awesome. He knows everybody in the front office of the HPC committee by first name basis. So he can get permits same day. Wow. Get him to the house and he can start doing his work. But depending on where I'm at in Maryland, if I have a house in Hagerstown, I got a crew that goes up to Hagerstown. If I have a crew that's in Baltimore, I have one out in Baltimore, and then so on and so forth. So it really just depends. But I want to get to a point to where I have subs and contractors that can hit anywhere in Maryland that'll travel. But that, I think, just comes with scaling your business to a point to where they know Darnell is going to give them a job every single 3 months. Yeah, I'm just not there yet, but that's what I'm working towards. How many? So what you're working towards? How many do you want to be handling at once? How many projects?
while working my 9 to 5,
Yeah, exactly.
I can handle maybe 2 at a time.
Okay, yeah.
But when I retire, I kind of want that to be the nest egg, flipping to be the nest egg of getting money into the business and using that profit to funnel into long-term buy and holds.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, maybe 4 at a time. I don't want to over leverage myself. I don't ever want to try to overexpend and have to cut back, but
Yeah.
I want to take bite-sized chunks and do quality work again. So if it's 3 or 4 flips at a time, I'll do that.
I should say, you know, Brian Athey, call it the Brian Athey hard money lender. But also, you know, he's told me, you know, one of the strategies that he's done over the years is if he's developing 10 projects, you know, maybe you sell 5, but you keep 5.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you're selling money because you need that cash flow, but the end game is these long-term holds, right? And so I don't know if you've thought about that at all, or if are you holding any of yours currently, or if you're selling them all, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. So for me, it's about using the profit from the flips to funnel into long-term buy and holds.
Yeah.
And so that's really my game plan. I don't want to get to a point where I'm flipping so much property to where I just have so much taxable income and now I'm paying Uncle Sam a third of what I made plus my 9 to 5 job.
Yep.
It's not the goal. The goal is to remove your taxes and remove having to pay taxes. IRS don't come for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal again is to funnel that into long-term buy and holds. I think we all understand the benefits from having a long-term property.
I don't know if everyone does, but you do, obviously. And I mean,
depreciation.
even the fact that you have multiple properties before your 30 is impressive. I mean, it's a lot more than I ever did. And if you keep doing that, you'll be shocked at how many how many homes you hold 10 years from now.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
All of a sudden, you might, there's 50, 75, 100 homes.
Yep.
And when you're doing that, I mean, that's a way to create wealth, right? And it will always go up. Real estate will over time.
For sure.
There's no doubt.
I think there's a strategy though behind it too. When you're flipping, obviously you're increasing your taxable income from the net profit. If you're not holding that property for at least a year, you can't 1031 tax exchange. So what do? You should be buying long-term real estate to depreciate it and write off those gains from the profit from the flips. Right, so I'm realizing these things like week by week, like, oh snap, okay, I just paid this much in taxes, I'm receiving this much back on back taxes. So understanding that long term now, that's the strategy.
Yep.
Flip into the long term, flip into the long term, and just rinse and repeating that entire method.
When you look at Instagram, what's your goal with it?
People trust what they see.
Mhm.
So if you have a business that you're trying to build, you have to be putting out content so people can trust you. For me, I'm not in the service industry to where I'm soliciting anything for money. At the same time, I am always looking for capital. So if you're interested in helping me raise private capital or invest into my business in terms of being a private lender, I have to sell myself to show you that I know what I'm talking about and I can manage these deals and help us win as a team. Social media for me is not going to be about likes, views, and growing a following. It's about just giving game.
Mhm.
If I can be transparent with what I'm doing on my day-to-day jobs and projects, my tribe will attract to me. And
Yeah.
hopefully they'll ask questions that I can continue to add value to them from. So that's really the goal for me in social media. I think there's benefits, obviously, getting monetized and things like that are cool. But me being in my 9 to 5 job, I'm not thirsty for the paycheck from other sources.
Right.
So again, having that 9 to 5 job is my nest egg.
Yeah.
So I can focus on the business and really be authentic with the messages that I'm putting out there.
For those out there that are thinking about getting into real estate, so how much money did you have saved before when you got your first property?
$0 probably.
Yeah.
I was a broke journeyman in the NFL, CFL, XFL arena. I wasn't ever getting the weekly paychecks.
Right.
So my savings was like minuscule. It was
Yeah.
a couple $100 maybe.
So when you bought your first property, did you have to put anything down of your own money, or were you able to use private money for all of it?
So my first rental property I bought with my family, and that property I did have money saved up to put my portion into that property.
Yeah.
Every other flip or long-term rental that I own to date has
Yeah.
been all private capital, hard money, private capital.
Cool. Are you using a variety of different private money lenders, or the same one, or how does that look?
Yeah, so I have a handful of about 5 or 6 that I've used on the last handful of deals. Majority of them have just taken their interest and let me keep the principal to just reinvest into the next project. But hard money lender wise, I've used maybe about 3 or 4 different ones right now. But that's also about building relationships. So
Yeah.
the one that I'm using now,
Sure.
I'm going to try to use him again moving forward just so that I can get the better rates and the better terms and things of that
Yeah.
nature. But it's all relationship building.
It is relational. I mean, Brian Athey, who I mentioned before, Congressional Capital. He truly gets to know every person he works with. It's important to him. It's he's putting out his money. It's all about relationships and getting to know people. It really does matter. And I think a lot of people might not think of, my social media is out there to create possible relationships with private money, but I think it's a great answer and a great strategy for you. Rapid fire questions.
Oh, let's go.
All right. Let's see what we got here.
Let me get my brain right.
Our team here, they do some research. They put this together. All right. Have you ever used, your sports history to close the deal? Your sports experience, and what does that look like?
Ooh, like in I'm Darnell. This is what I've done in the past.
Something like that, yeah, or in any which way, yeah.
Honestly, I haven't. I think people find being an ex-athlete or professional athlete a cool story, so it's helped me build relationships with people.
Sure.
But I've never been like, hey, I'm Darnell, I played here, sell me your house. No, but relationship-wise, it has helped me build stronger relationships because people trust that I'm a diligent, confident, go-getter type person, and you want to do business with people like that. Like,
So you get to that level, helps. You got to work hard, be committed, dedicated, right?
Yeah.
Give us your best hack, your technology hack. What is it?
Technology hack. Ooh. Real estate related?
Anything, yeah.
Yeah, real estate related. We'll stay on that. So driving for dollars, if you don't know what driving for dollars is, it's a way to find properties off market by just doing your own research in your neighborhood. So you can be walking your dog down your neighborhood and you see a crappy house. You could be driving home from work, see a crappy house. If you pull over, you open up your maps on your phone and you point your phone toward the house, hit the pin on the house itself. It'll give you the address, zip code, and I use that, copy and paste that address into this skip tracing website called REI Skip.
Okay.
And I'll skip trace the house, homeowner. I'll go home and I'll call the homeowner.
That's awesome.
And that's pretty much my real estate IT hack.
So the stuff you bought, have you got all of it off market, or did you get some of them on the MLS?
Let's see. All really off market besides one, and I'll consider that a half on market, half off market because the agent that I used to buy that house, I had called this seller maybe 3 months before then, and they never got back to me. Yeah. But the property showed up on the market a few months later, and he was like, "Hey, have you seen this house?" I was like, "I've been calling the seller for a while now. Yeah, let's go. Let's close on this."
Best smart home device you've seen?
The Google Nests. I love those things. Yeah. Like the fact that I can be here and increase the temperature. Right, I think some of them you can actually integrate with your lights as well. And start cutting on the LED lights in your house. Yep. I don't have that on this specific house that I live in, but I've used that in the past and I love it.
Are you a risk taker? Like, was that an issue ever for you?
No, man. I am I'm a risk taker with with some knowledge behind it. Like, I'm not a blind risk taker, but I knew the benefits of real estate from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I knew the benefits of reading real estate from listening to Bigger Pockets podcast and diving in on YouTube University, listening to podcasts like this with professionals in the industry. Yep. And from me getting my first deal, I knew that I was going to make it work one way or another. Yeah. And if I didn't, then that might be a sign from God that, look, this might not be your calling, or to double down on it. Really focus on what you messed up on and take the next deal more serious. Right. So for me, it was never a hesitation as to when and if I'm going to do this. It was how and how soon.
Have you lost money on any projects?
I haven't. On paper, I have.
Okay.
From a cash flow standpoint and a profit standpoint, no.
Okay, cool. Yeah, a guy that once gave me advice, he would call, if you lose money or if you put in tons of time and it doesn't work out, it's actually called tuition. Right? It's like kind of like you're kind of like paying for college, right? You're paying all this money to learn, but you don't see anything financially. But hopefully one day that tuition comes back to pay you out, right? And so, I mean, I'm sure you've learned a lot over there from project to project, since you've been involved in the game, right?
Yeah. I will say, I haven't lost deal from a closing on a deal. I've lost EMDs from not closing on deals that I just wasn't too convicted about.
Sure.
Right. So I will say I've lost money on real estate.
Yeah. Tuition.
It was tuition. That's tuition.
That's right. It was tuition.
That was tuition.
Anything else you want to share? What you've got going on, or if people want to work with you?
Yeah. If you guys want to ever get on a deal, shoot me a DM. Comment on some of my stuff. Let's talk. Let's create a community. I'm here to help and add value as much as I can. If you want to get on a deal with me, just shoot me a message and we'll figure out how we can work together.
Glad you came. Good to see you, bud.
I appreciate you.
Look forward to staying in touch on your journey.
For sure.
All right, man. Love it. Good to see you.
Likewise. Appreciate you guys.